when you were writing and researching this book, it's a big question, but did you come up with any answers of what his motivation was other than he's a psychopath?
Yeah. And actually, when you asked me at the beginning, Megan, why do I want to do it? So I'm the mother of two 22-year-old sons, twins, who are the same age as the victims and who were in college at the time. And that's exactly why I wanted to do it, because something about it just, parents everywhere send their kids off to college. You don't expect something like this to happen to them in their bedrooms. I mean, it's just extraordinary. But also, I'm the mother of sons, and there was something when I looked at, Kohberger, this very obviously intelligent guy, also a college student, PhD student of criminology in his 20s. And what I did discover was that, two things. One, he was a student of criminal minds. And two, he was a full-blown misogynist. And he had been exposed when he was doing his master's in psychology back in Pennsylvania to the videos made by this guy called Elliot Rodger, who is kind of like a cult hero of what they call the incel movement, involuntary celibate movement. This guy, Elliot Rodger. And there are distinct parallels between what Elliot Rodger, who was a college student out in Santa Barbara, did in 2014 and what Kohberger did. Now, all we know is that Kohberger watched these videos and knew about Elliot Rodger. We also know that by the time he got to do his PhD at Washington State University, his views of women and his behavior towards women was so problematic that it got him into great trouble, and he was about to lose all the funding for his teaching position.
Wow, okay.
At Washington State University at the time of the murders. But Elliot Rodger, back in 2014, made a video and wrote a whole manifesto saying that he was going to go out and kill the sorority women who had all of them who'd rejected him. He was a virgin. He made these videos of himself outlining his plans of retribution, and he sent this video to his therapist, who sent it to his mother minutes before he went out and killed 16 people before eventually turning the gun on himself. Elliot Rodger, talked in his book about taking revenge on a woman called Maddie. A lot of the families of the victims and the friends believe that Brian Kohberger's target on the night of the murders in Moscow, Idaho, was not all four of the students he wound up killing, but one of them, Maddie Mogan, because that's whose room he went directly towards. And Kaylee Gonzalez, who he would have found, who he did find in bed asleep with her, was only there by chance. Kaylee had packed up and had left that house several days, if not a week or so before. She was already living at home. And the police do know that Kohberger was staking out the house. So, I think they still, and based on even the latest, all the stuff that was unsealed last week after the lifting of a gag order, the Gonzalez family and others and the friends do believe that Brian Kohberger was targeting Maddie Mogan. But he did an excellent job. I spoke to Chief Fry, who's now chief somewhere else in Washington State, but he was the chief in Moscow at the time of the murders. And, Kohberger did an excellent job at scrubbing his digital footprint. So, this for the police, they're frustrated because they were never able to come up with a definitive why. But for the friends and the families, they believe it was directed towards Maddie Mogan, and they'll never know. I mean, one of the really frustrating things is that there were clearly red flags in his behavior at Washington State University. And I do say in the book, I report how one of his classmates found himself stuck in a car with him, and Kohberger said to him that he believed women belonged in the kitchen and the bedroom. They had no place being on campus, and that he, Brian Kohberger, could walk into any bar or any social gathering and have his way with any woman he wanted. It was a deeply unpleasant conversation. And this was a man who, meanwhile, upset women so much in the classroom that they walked out in tears. He followed women out to the car. And the families were hoping that if this thing had gone to trial, that they would hear more about all of that. Because it touches on this question that's very pervasive right now about the First Amendment on college campuses. When does free speech become hate speech? At what point should colleges intervene? And Washington State University has been very tight-lipped, hiding behind FERPA laws, which they're entitled to do. And so, that I think for the families is very frustrating that they don't get to know everything that went on in plain sight, as it were.
Vicky, I know his phone pinged outside their house like 23 something times. How long do you think he was stalking their home, learning their whereabouts, trying to get friendly with Kaylee's dog so it wouldn't bark if he entered the home and all of that? How long do you think he was stalking them before he made his actual move in November?
According to the probable cause affidavit, 12 times since August.
Wow.
And I will say, the house at the King Road house was demolished,
Right.
Somewhat controversially, because the Gonzalez family was very against that, worried that evidence could.
Yeah, because if the jury couldn't get a walkthrough.
Yeah, exactly. But I went and traced sort of the footsteps that the police say that the way that Kohberger would have sat in his car and looked at that house. And there is this cul-de-sac that was at the back of the house that has a direct view on, through the trees onto the deck at the back. And there's one bedroom that you could look right into. And that became Maddie's bedroom. And, the idea that he sat there, it's the only place that all the kids, this is a densely populated student housing area where they all park their cars. And the idea, most of them told me that they would, walk to their cars at night and look at the house, and you could see Maddie lit up. You could see her at her vanity, putting on her makeup, curling her hair. And it was a sort of heartwarming sight to everybody, except obviously this one guy sitting there staring through the trees with a horrible, horrible motive in mind.